Before we start with the explanation of chapter 1089, let's talk a little about what happened in chapter 1088. This chapter, which was known as the last lesson, is where we first see Garp teaching Koby and the others as to what they would do in a situation where there is a baby and an old man stranded on an island with one boat that can only hold 2 people. Now Koby, being Koby, said that he would let them both go and stay behind, but Garp scolded him and said you're wrong, and that he should only leave the old man behind since he doesn't have much to live for anyway. Garp does want everyone to be equal obviously, but he does understand that youngsters have limitless futures and they should always take priority. We then see a flashback of Koby surrendering himself in return for the 800 marines and a battleship on Amazon Lily, the Isle of Women. We do then also see the giant hand from Pizarro coming down on the ship. Now everyone was scared at this point, and on the pirate island, Garp does say that he'll create an opening, bloody hell I can't even talk, for Koby while he does destroy the giant hand. Now I guess most of you are probably getting annoyed by the recap, so we'll jump straight to the end of this chapter. At the end of the chapter, Koby does jump in front of the hand and stop it. Now this wouldn't be as easy as it seems, as the hand was practically the size of a mountain. I mean, everyone thought that he was crazy. Of course Koby didn't listen to them, and with the power of his haki, he just demolishes the giant hand and saves everyone from dying. Garp then at this point obviously announces that the mission to save Koby has been accomplished, and just then of course Kuzan comes from behind and stabs Garp with his ice, and Garp just starts to freeze over. It's just so sad. Now on to One Piece chapter 1089, which is also known as the Siege Barricading Incident. This chapter starts at the village known as Fusha Village, aka Luffy's hometown. Now you know something's good happening when it comes back to Luffy's hometown. There we do see the mayor reading the news about Garp. We didn't really seem that worried about it, as he knew it's Luffy, he's gonna be fine, come on. Meanwhile we see Makino and his son reading the newspaper, and Makino's son can be seen laughing at Luffy's face. And no, it wasn't Gear 5 Luffy, it was the normal Luffy. Makino says to her son how he has started to like Big Brother Luffy. Then the panel actually jumps back to Mount Columbo, where we see Dadan, and she's in literal tears, just wondering where Luffy and Garp are and what they're even up to, if they're okay. But suddenly this is when the earthquake starts to happen. Now this was actually 6 days after the Lucia Kingdom incident, when the whole kingdom was destroyed, basically just erased, and there was nothing left of it other than just a huge hole in the sea where the kingdom originally was. This hole is actually pretty close to the one we see in Eni's lobby, which does raise some questions as to how packed that hole in Eni's lobby came to be, but more on that another time. The panel now cuts to the people all around the world experiencing the earthquake. We see Momo in Wano, we even see Water 7 feeling the earthquake as well. It even cuts as far as to Laboon Twin Capes, and I mean, I'm just so glad that Oda hasn't forgotten about Laboon. Glad to see him make an appearance in this chapter. And lastly, we also see Ivankov. Now most people would think that the earthquake was the only thing happening here, but that's not true at all. The sea levels around the world actually started to rise by 1 whole meter. Now this doesn't sound like a lot, but the resulting rise in sea level actually caused a large number of islands to dive underwater and were just basically submerged whole. Now we do see many people worried, and how someone even literally has a shark in the house. I mean, a shark, bloody hell. But it does cut back to the mayor, and we see him very worried as he's witnessing the water level rising. Now this next part is probably my favourite one in the chapter, as we see Luffy versus the Marine Corps. As the people of Egghead Island start to realise this, they get really worried. I mean, I can't blame them, who wouldn't be, as there were 100 battle-ready ships, 20 great warships, and even over 30,000 marines. Sentomaru even calls Kizaru, telling him how he said not to use the weaponized sea beast, and we come to know that there were 9 Navy HQ Vice Admirals there, as well as Kizaru himself present in this battle. We also see how most marines wanted Sentomaru to surrender already, and how Kizaru can't really cover him up. He can't help him anymore because he's researching the Void Century. That's just something he can't protect him from, and he's got to obey orders from the higher up. We hear from Sentomaru on how Vegapunk was able to make the Pacifista's laser after doing tons of research on Kizaru's beam from his devil fruit, and he was just in shock when he come to see that it was Kizaru who was the one who'd been sent to kill him. Now Kizaru had talked about how this fight isn't exactly in their own self-interest, as anything they do break will be losses for them as well, and he just thinks it's fair to assume that Rob Lucci and the others who were sent to assassinate them had probably failed due to the Straw Hat. Now in one of the warships we actually see Jay Garcia Saturn present. Now he does ask one of the Marines about the current situation, of which the other Marine says that they haven't received any word from Cypherpole, meaning their mission might have actually failed. Suddenly Vice Admiral Doberman comes in and says that it's safe to assume Dr. Vegapunk and the 7 satellites that are up in the Labo Stratum with the 4 Seraphims that were assigned to protect them have potentially joined forces with the Straw Hat, which would be a major turn for them as well. And their advanced guards, which included Cypherpole members like Rob Lucci, Kaku and Stussy, possibility of many other Cypher Pole agents may have been captured by Sentomaru and his battalion of Mark III pacifistas. And since the Frontier Dome is at 100%, they can just assume that nobody's going to be able to get out of the Labostratum, but they have no way to know what has become apparent on the interior of the dome in the past few days. Jay does ask Doberman the question, where have the researchers and the workers of Egghead gone? To which one of the Marines does reply and tell him that they have escaped, though they have already tracked down where the ship are and the workers and researchers are. Jay doesn't hesitate. He immediately orders the Marine and the others to sink those ships, as they might know something they shouldn't. The Marine also says that Glutton Jewelry Bunny, aka Kuma's daughter, is also on the island, but Jay basically just says to let her be, she's no threat. We then see York complaining about the fact that they tried to kill her along with the other Vegapunks, to which the Gorosei replies how he doesn't see any difference between her and the other Vegapunks, but after the Leloucha incident they decided to keep her so that she can help them produce more Mother Flame weapons. Now it does seem like the Marines won't stop till they destroy the world by creating more and more holes, and essentially they're just going to sink everything into the water at this point. It was also revealed that the power plant used to produce the Mother Flames was on Egghead Island. This is one of the reasons why they've got to be really careful during this battle, is they want to keep the damage to a minimum and just destroy as little as possible. York does ask them not to hurt her or the laboratory and to make her one of the world nobles, which surprisingly actually agree. Now comes the fun part. A little while the conversation between York and the others have started, the Marine Corps received a message transmission from Egghead Island, meaning that Saturn and Kizaru were actually listening to the conversation between York and the others. Now here's the twist. Suddenly York starts screaming and crying as how the Straw Hats are coming to kill her, meaning, well, what we all sort of thought from the beginning, the Straw Hats had successfully dealt with the Seraphims. And in the next panel we see Zoro holding his sword to York's neck, while Luffy, being my guy he is just chilling, eating his meat with the other Straw Hats present now. This does conclude our coverage of this chapter. Please, if you like it, subscribe. I will be putting out content more, and just stay tuned for the next one. Thank you guys for watching.